Hello, hello, hello. It's Dr. Sasheen. Okay, so today's Monday, or excuse me, not Monday, today's morning motivation or morning conversation is about floor and ceiling limits. And this one is a little hard because it's difficult to think of yourself as someone else's floor or to think that you don't reach someone else's ceiling. But we see in social media, across platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, TikTok, all of them, we see relationships playing out in real time. For good or for ill, that's what's happening. And one of the conversations I think that people need to start to having, especially as they see relationships, and we're not just talking about celebrity relationships, people put their relationships out on social media because they want people to interact with them. And there's this thread in Reddit called, well, there are lots of threads in Reddit, but there's a lot of relationship threads. And what I see happening a lot are women, especially, posting about things that their boyfriends do that they just don't understand why they do things like that. There's their behaviors that their boyfriends do that they don't understand why they do them, but they're behaviors that they've always done, that in the beginning were fine or quirky or kind of cute, if not a little strange, that are now gross or disgusting or pathological or whatever. And here's one of the issues that it actually comes into play when you start to think about why relationships begin that breakdown. And yes, it's because red flags were ignored. That's certainly true, but it's also because when you when you date and choose to marry someone who is not where you are, who doesn't match with where you are, either they have hit their ceiling with you, or for whatever the case may be, what you're going to find out really quickly is that you are never going to be able to bring somebody too far up to where you are before they bring you down to where they are. And let me say that again. You're never going to pull somebody if you're so mismatched, you're not going to be able to pull them up fast enough before they pull you down. Because the pull to come down is always stronger. Gravity always brings us down. It always pulls hard. The same thing happens in the nebulous of a relationship. Bad behaviors always pull down the good one, right? Negativity always brings down the positive. Stress always brings down happiness much faster. It is a lot harder to bring somebody up to where you were when you met if they're already down here. It is much easier for them to begin to chip you down and to begin to systematically and systemically just kind of chip down until you're at a level that they're comfortable with. So you might in fact have believed that you were here, but they were actually here, and you saw all the signs that this space was pretty big. So in fact, and this is what I call floor and ceiling. You may have thought, well, yes, they're down here at where my floor used to be, and I'm up here at this ceiling now. But in time, and if we're together, we'll start to balance each other out. Not if you're actually not in the same place. A lot of people yell and scream about May December romances, age and other. It's not actually about age. It's really about floor and ceiling relationships. You're never going to be able to, unless the force of your ceiling is so dynamic that it counteracts all the negative issues of dating someone who is not on your level. You're not going to bring them with you. You're not going to be able to shoot them high enough, fast enough to prevent them from bringing you down, to prevent them from deflating your bubble. And the reality is sometimes you are someone's floor. Someone is up here and you are down here. And the way to bring those two things together is they're the person who's way up here and the person who's way down here have to have a sincere commitment to leveling together so that this person comes up to where they want to be, but this person doesn't have to come so far down that they are no longer the person that you're with. Because let's be clear, we're all striving in some ways, but some of us are only striving this much, whereas some of us are striving this much. And when you get a person who's striving this much in relationship with someone whose strive button is this big, that is a recipe for disaster. And so what I see a lot, especially on these Real Housewives shows and the reality shows and the Reddit threads, or a lot of especially women saying, I don't understand why this person who was really not in my zone of excellence, really wasn't where I was here, why he is not. And the more they begin to try to justify an excuse, the more they start to ratchet down their ceiling until it meets the floor that they are now standing on. And that's a tough road to be on when you've committed to that person for the rest of your life. So before you get married, or before you say I do, it's probably a good idea to take some assessment. Where am I? And where do I want to be? And who do I want to date? And how do I find that person? And yes, I understand about love and lust and sex and passion and all of that kind of stuff. But I also see in some really successful relationships, the narrative being, we were together in where we wanted to go, right? We were together, and then we helped and compelled each other to keep climbing, or we helped and compelled each other to keep striving on our level together. Rarely do you hear successful relationships say, and sometimes you do, but rarely do you hear them say, I was way down here and she or he pulled me out and pulled me up to where I am now. And that kind of pulling and allowing yourself to be pulled by another person, that is a rare trait that not many people have. Most people have a zone of comfort that they're in, and they're much more likely to want you to come down to where they are than to want to float up to where you are.